I do, but
On the table where she put hers.
it's gotta be. Yeah, let me sit down.
Oh, he's not gonna be here.
Oh, no, okay.
No. You wanna start it?
We'll call this meeting to order. The first order of business is to go through a roll call here. And we'll go down the line this way, introduce ourselves. So state your name and all the committee. I'll start off, Governor Newcomb.
Charles Frechette.
Brandon Woolley. Dave McCarthy.
I'm Bev Buxton.
And Bev has volunteered to be our secretary. So that's gonna be helpful. The second item is A, elect a chairperson for this meeting.
I'd make a motion that we elect Mr. Newcomb as chairperson for this meeting.
I'll second it.
Those in favor again? Thank you. I'll try to do the best I can. The next item is to elect, there's another committee member who's not here, is Barry Jordan. And he would like the permanent chairperson. So I'd like to make a motion on the floor that we elect Barry Jordan as permanent chairperson.
Make a motion that we elect Barry as permanent chairperson for this committee.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any objection to Barry Jordan as a permanent chairperson, but I think we're being a little premature. I think maybe we need to have a little bit of some sort of structure laid out, exactly what we hope to achieve with this committee. Because I'm a little unclear about our objectives. You know, I see a lot of information on the agenda about the quarry, but I don't think we can effectively address the quarry without addressing our comprehensive plan. And I think that, you know, we have a good start here as far as the committee members, but I think we're far short of good representation of the community in the effort. So I would suggest that not select a chairperson yet, but focus more on who we want to represent the town in this committee. Because I suspect there'll be more people than who are currently at this table.
Go ahead. Okay.
Well, it's my understanding that the Board of Selectmen selected this committee and these committee members to address this issue. How we go about it and, you know, what our directive is, we can kind of nail down on or focus in on that. But first we have to get some type of operation structure here within this committee.
Oh, exactly. We do need a structure.
So that's, to me, that would be the first order of business. Otherwise, we won't be accomplished. I don't think we'd be accomplishing anything at this point.
You gotta start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, I have similar persuasion And I see that we should, to your point, I think we should address the too. I think we need to focus first on the vote that was taken a week ago in regards to quarries. We need to focus on that, and then we need to expand this later on the whole comprehensive plan and on the ordinances. So, is there any further discussion? So with that said, those in favor of electing Mary Jordan as chairperson? Passes. So, this is that. The next issue is 2. Discussion on voting in committee. So I bring up this point because there are people on the committee that are from Sebago. And should they be the people that have the vote? Or should we have others? Dave?
As this is for the town of Sebago, and most of us here are Sebago residents, I would like to see just residents voting, and still have Brandon here as a non-voting member of the committee. I don't see any advantage of having non-residents and employees voting on something that really is gonna, change this town perhaps forever. So, I don't know what everybody else feels about that.
I feel the same way as Dave, that, it should be Sebago, Sebago people only that are able to vote.
No offense, Brandon, it's just.
No, I agree with you.
Okay,
Doesn't make
so,
any
'cause
sense
we
to
need
have
your,
everybody else.
we certainly need your expertise, but,
Yeah, we're gonna seek your advice here. So, that said, you want to put is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that, what are we, 5 members?
Yes,
6
we
members
are
on the committee?
6 members with 5 in the community, I believe.
Okay. I make a motion that for the purpose of this committee and our job here, that only the 5 members of the committee that are residents of Sebago can vote.
I'll second that.
Those in favor? So passes. Are we ready to move on to public comment? In the town meeting a week ago, somebody asked if there was public comment, so I'm gonna let that happen here. I would like to, if you would like to speak, please state your name and town you live in. And I'd like to keep this down to 2 minutes. Is there any comments? Bill?
First of all, thank you for taking on a thankless job. But I'm here speaking tonight as a resident, not as your select person. It strikes me that you need the authority to operate without interruption and without distraction from outside sources. So I applaud the energy you just put into this. But I recommend you make a list of questions to bring before the select board as requests to exercise that freedom. On that list, you ought to include the authority to contact the MMA on behalf of this board for recommendations and for clarity of warrant items and such. And in my opinion, as a resident, you ought to have authority to contact the town's legal representation at your will, and not have to pass through the town management or the select board to do so. So that's a start. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark?
My name is Mark Curtis, not a resident of Sebago, but we are a landowner. So I got a couple of questions. First question I've got is, I see some people here and I appreciate that. I know how we found out about this meeting. Was this meeting publicized in some way? I can't find it on the website. Was there?
I believe it wasn't, it was announced at the last meeting,
Announced at which last meeting?
at the town meeting.
At the town meeting.
Yeah, the selectman got up and said that the meeting would happen on the 30th at
And
6 AM.
the town's currently under the impression that that's a proper public notice?
You have to ask the town that.
Okay, so, but to your knowledge, I guess that's my question. To your knowledge, that's the only public notice that was out there. It wasn't in the
Yes.
paper and it wasn't on the website?
Mine, yes, that's the point
Okay.
now.
Appreciate the clarification. Second comment I've got is, the makeup of the board. I can't say that I love it. It's your town, you guys should be able to do what you want in a lot of ways, but if you're really gonna try to look at this and try to be unbiased, and try to at least have the appearance of non-bias, we really should look up at the makeup of the board here. You know, personally, I got no problem with Barry Jordan. I'm happy to talk with him anytime. But you got the guy who led the charge against this sitting on the board. I can't say that that makes any sense. The other thing that you don't have that I can see, and I guess I'm making an inference because I've been involved in this industry for nearly 30 years, I don't recognize a single name of somebody who I would consider somebody who understands the ins and outs and the expertise that it would take to address mineral extraction concerns. I mean, I see a code enforcement officer up there that's very familiar with your code, but I don't see anybody who's of the industry that could impart that expertise. I am not standing here telling you that it should be me. I don't think I could be impartial. I think I have plenty of expertise, but what I'm saying is I think the board, if you're really gonna look into this and you're really gonna try to do a good job with this, I think you need some more resources that can help with that. If your purpose is simply to outlaw mineral extraction in the town of Sebago or in certain parts of the town of Sebago, then you've probably got the right board. If you really wanna look at it and give every property owner a fair shake at this, then I think you need to look at who's on that board and find somebody within your town who has voting rights that can sit there and help you understand this and work your way through it. I think it's an important piece of what you're gonna try to do.
Any other comments? Back corner?
With regard to the composition, actually, Jim Belfiore, I'm on.
State your name and,
Jim Belfiore, I'm on Valley Lane,
thanks.
here in town. I have an interest in the board's makeup simply because, aside from names, I didn't know until a moment ago that one of you isn't from the town, for example, and I don't know what each of you in particular do, which in some regards, I probably should be a better member of the community just to know in this small town who does what. But I want to make sure, or at least recommend, that as much as possible, avoiding any conflicts of interest is something that is of paramount concern. So as the board determines its scope, determines what it wants to achieve, and also determines its makeup, it makes a tremendous amount of sense to bring in expertise, and I would certainly be in favor of whatever budget is necessary to go and bring in the expertise independently to advise the board on decisions that it has to make. But I'd like to just suggest that no member of any particular mining or other industrial interest, for example, should sit on the board if there is a present conflict. And any other conflicts on either side of this issue should be examined very closely so that there is as much of an independent evaluation of the question. So I just wanted to express that concern.
Thank you. Next.
Phil Strike, also a resident in town, and I agree with both of what they said, especially where this is a hot topic. I guess transparency is key. I know there's a lot of debate on both sides, and the biggest thing is keeping conflict of interest out of it. If any board member obviously is in a butter to said project, that'd be a conflict of interest, or in any aspect of that. The biggest thing is to be transparent and having equal insight to both aspects of it, because it is going to shape the town. You know, if tough to tell someone what they can and can't do with their own property. That's the biggest thing, and I know there's heated discussions on both sides, but I think the biggest thing is to have both representations equally on the board, because it is going to decide the next course of action that this takes, whether it's through the committee or, you know, in the courts. I guess, you know, being transparent is key, and any conflict of interest should be set aside, and a fair board should be represented, like I said, both sides. Thank you.
No?
Danelle Allen, currently living in Carpon Road. I would caution all of you when you are delving into our ordinances and our comprehensive plan to make sure that everything is crystal clear and not open for interpretation. We have had several hullabaloos in this town with the planning board because the comprehensive plan was open to interpretation. If it's written properly, then it wouldn't be open to interpretation. It would be crystal clear for everybody. Anyone owning land in this town would be able to go right there and know exactly what they can and can't do. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Couple more things that these folks brought up are very critical. And then I want to get into how the board was chosen in a moment. So you do need to be able to have access to any professionals that you desire, that you need for clarification of issues. And so that's a valid, very valid point. We can't go too far down the road before you're gonna need some budget consideration, and this has been pointed out, so that's a critical thing for you to approach the select board and the town manager with, and I suggest you do that at the next meeting. As far as selection of the board and who gave who what authority, the petition that was served the Board of Selectmen basically chose the chair to choose the board. That was done in as judicious a manner as she could. She chose one member of each of our boards and 2 citizens from the community. And why it went even numbers, I couldn't tell you, because I would never do that. But these are choices you folks now have to make. As far as who sits on this board, that's been chosen. That was driven by the nature of the petition, and who's on the board right now was the choice, and that was the request of some 240 voters on a petition. So my guess is that would take precedent, and that would stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? On that note, we'll close the public discussion, public comment, I mean. So now we have committee discussion. And I thought we'd, this is a preparation meeting for our next meeting. But if you got a comprehensive, an ordinance folder, you have a map in there. And this is something that you might want to be taking a look at tonight, but at other evenings or whatever, in between the next meeting. And looking at this and seeing, you know, where different operations of quarrying or mining are gonna be, or what you feel where they should be. Whether they be in these 3 districts, village district, rural, residential, and rural. And if you choose, maybe you choose 1 or 2, how far away? This is just something that I thought and that might be talked about during the next meeting. Any comments?
All right, I guess I gotta go back. My original comment about this board being a good start. I think we're putting the cart before the horse if we start talking about quarries and quarry ordinances and district maps. Because there's a procedure for amending district maps. And it literally requires, you know, a legislative act, a town meeting. So, you know, we can't just rewrite our ordinance, we can't just rewrite or redistrict the map without going through the foundation for the implementation or the creation of that map from the beginning, which means a comprehensive plan. Now, I've been involved with comprehensive plans, and I've actually looked at the state's manual recently on comprehensive plans. And I'll just go down through the list of what the state planning office recommends that you have for members for a comprehensive planning committee. They recommend members from each board within the town, a select board, a member, a planning board member, and an appeals board, whatever boards you might have.
Which we have.
Yes, right. And any key department of the town. We have a fire department, EMS department. We have a public works department. They recommend that there should, you know, the committee should include a member from each of the departments. It should also include members from local businesses. You know, we don't have a lot of businesses in town, but we do have some, and they should be represented when we're suggesting a change to our comprehensive plan. Members from land trusts, people with special interests. There may be people that have special interests in conservation or special interests in development. They should be represented. Now, it doesn't mean there's going to be a different person. You know, a person with a special interest in environmental issues could possibly be one of the board members now, or a business owner within town. They also recommend that we should have representation of people who've lived in the town for many years, for 15 to 20 years. And they should also be represented by people who've only just recently moved here. People with special skills, yes, special knowledge of the issues of key issues that we may be addressing in amending a comprehensive plan or rewriting a comprehensive plan and amending the ordinances. So it's perfectly reasonable to expect that there might be somebody from the construction background, the use of aggregates, or either the production or use of aggregates should also be on this committee, because it's a key issue that we're going to be discussing. So I feel strongly, you know, we can't just look at the ordinance without looking at the comprehensive plan, because everything in our comprehensive plan supports this particular use that has been presented to the planning board, and which we're discussing right now. You know, it's not just the written word of the comprehensive plan, but it's in all the maps. You know, we spent years going through questionnaires, interviews, public hearings, public meetings. We produced an entire set of maps. There's a slope gradient map. There's a opportunities and constraints maps. There are wildland maps. There's a ton of maps that were considered by the planning board and the comprehensive plan when they wrote our comprehensive plan, and these maps are also considered by the planning board. So we can't change our comprehensive plan without revisiting all of these maps and looking at the terrain and looking at the terror, looking at the wildlife habitat, looking at sensitive wetlands, looking at slopes and gradients, looking at soil types. You know, these are things that need to be done, and they need to be done in order to redo the comprehensive plan, so we have the tools to amend our ordinances. So this is going to be a long haul, and I think it's going to take a lot of participation from the community as well as public in the public hearing format. You know, I'll repeat what I said, I have no objection to Barry Jordan being the chairperson, but I think, and you know, he may do a very fine job, but I think, you know, I think we should really look at the structure of the committee first.
Any comments from Dave, Charles? Off the top of your head right now?
I mean, not really, I agree with a lot of stuff that you said, but, you know, Barry has been a big part in, you know, getting things organized with this whole situation. Is he, somebody that's affected closely? Yes, he is, but he's the only one on this board that is. You know, it's not like it's stacked. I don't live anywhere near, you know, Dave doesn't, Grosvenor doesn't. You know, I don't think with all the people that feel a certain way about this, that it's gonna be hard to find somebody that can sit up here and not, you know, and not be in that situation. As far as getting somebody up here that is in the business, has been in the mining business, I think that's a great idea. You know, I'm definitely open to all that stuff. And even though there isn't one sitting here now, you know, I've been in contact with somebody that knows a lot about it. They're in the business. It doesn't mean we're not talking to them, you know. But yeah, I guess that's what I think.
I understand the foundation and the point you're making, but I also understand that we were given a directive to look into this issue of quarry and mining. And it was very clear to me the other night that there was at least 90% of those people who were giving us the directive to do this. The other thing is that we only have a certain amount of time to produce this article, to take it to a public hearing, and then to take it to a town meeting. So that's the way I feel about it. I feel like there's a clear sense, and I, you know, been to a number of town meetings here in other towns that I've lived in. I never saw so many people at the town meeting.
Well, there were a lot of people there, and there was a lot of emotion, and a lot of what was said was driven by emotion.
Well, they may be able to show up.
And we can't be dictated to by a bunch of emotional people. We've got a very serious task ahead of us with the comprehensive plan review and with an ordinance review. You know, we've got to do what's best for the town as a whole, and not some group of people. You know, they were single-minded. There's no question about it. I agree with you 100%. Their message was very clear, but we still need to be mindful of what's best for the town as a whole.
I would just like to say, the makeup of the committee at this point is the makeup of the committee. This is what the selectmen charged us for. I don't think that this will be rushed. This is gonna take as long as it takes. I can assure you that if we have to take a year to do this, I know some people think it's gonna happen in 2 months or 3 months or by, you know, June 2nd or whatever. It's gonna take as long as it takes to get it done, because it is a very complicated thing that we're trying to do. So that's my point on that. I'm not looking to cut any corners. To Mr. Lowe's point, if we need some expertise, we need to be able to get that expertise. So talking to the selectmen about a budget for this process would be good. I think we need to do that at their next meeting. And while I'm talking to the gentleman in Back's point, yes, I think we should post these meetings.
We should.
We
Yes.
should, I think 2 weeks' notice is fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what is required for a committee such as this.
I think it's 10 days.
I'm not sure if we even have to post, but we'll get clarification on that
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that we're doing it properly so that everybody will be legally notified the right way.
Right.
So.
Are we ready to go on to, number 5, we can move to the end of the meeting.
Sure.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yep. Well, do you have a copy of the petition? Did anybody bring it, the wording on that?
May.
I
I have a copy of the article, yes.
Okay. Could you
Yeah,
read
read
that?
it?
Yeah, please. I think everybody should hear it so they know what we're doing. Oh, you want me to read it? Pardon my glasses.
Oh, I didn't know yet.
Okay. Shall the town adopt a moratorium prohibiting gravel extraction, quarrying, and mining entitled Prohibition of New Mines, Gravel Pits, and Quarries within the village district of the town? Okay, so that's what we voted on. Do you have a copy of the petition though? That
No.
has our actual, I believe is what Ann set the committee up to do.
I have this.
No. Brandon, you wouldn't have. Okay, can you get it? If you don't need this read, I mean, just say so, but I think it's important that you know what we're charged with doing and what the selectmen said to us.
Dave, just a point of clarification while we're waiting, and I won't, if you'd rather I didn't speak.
Go ahead.
You keep saying the select board approved this, it actually was not the case. The charge on the petition was that the chair would choose a committee, and she did so without our authority.
Okay.
Just
Point of order, yeah.
to clarify that.
You accepted the petition though?
We did,
Okay.
gladly, too.
Bill, can I
Sure.
ask him a question? Do you mind? When's the next select board meeting?
Next Tuesday night,
Yeah, I knew it
the
was.
7th,
What
at 6 p.m.
what I'd like to do is, I'll ask, town manager to get on the agenda for us to go to that.
Yep.
We should have at least 2 people, I think, and maybe all of them.
You gonna read?
Yeah.
Just to
Thank you,
talk about it,
Brandon.
right? Thank you.
Yeah, let's took another act of Congress to get this out of the wall. By virtue of the signatures on this petition, we hereby respectfully request that the Town of Sebago, Maine Board of Selectmen vote to enact a moratorium for a 6-month period with the ability to be extended if needed for another 6-month period. From the date that the board implements the moratorium is to prevent the planning board from entering into substantive review of sand and gravel pits and quarries and issuing permits on the same. The purpose of this moratorium is to adopt a dedicated ordinance and to review the Town of Sebago sand and gravel pits and quarries present ordinance and to enact specific standards for them. This petition also requires the Board of Selectmen to act on this petition prior to the next planning board meeting. It is also to require the town of Sebago chairman of the Board of Selectmen to implement a committee. This committee will review and revise these ordinances where the committee feels changes are needed based on public input obtained during public meetings for the town of Sebago main sand and gravel pits and quarries ordinances. We further request that the committee be then present their findings in the form of an article on the town warrant at a regular 2022 town meeting for the citizens of the town of Sebago to vote on. Yeah. All right. So there are a number of issues with that petition. First of all, I think there's the second paragraph where it references the time frame that it needs to be adopted before we enter into substantive review. Well, there was a great deal of discussion about substantive review and the drafting of the moratorium. Substantive review had already begun at the time this petition was submitted to the select board. But the select board still went ahead with the petition and drafted the moratorium. And there were no specifics as far as ordering the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to create the petition. I don't think that there was enough time and enough research put into the drafting or the assembly of this committee when it was named, honestly. I don't think it considered the scope of this task.
I think it had
We could ask the chairman of the select board to appoint additional people, or we could give her the option of appointing additional people.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should give her that option to appoint.
maybe something to think about. Nonetheless, we're directed by the selectmen to carry on with this. Any more point on this issue? Any more discussion?
I just wanna make sure that every member, before we meet next, understands, reads a comprehensive plan, writes down questions, comes back with questions so that we can understand that. And then if you can get into the ordinances at that point, I think everything starts with the comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
It gives the mood of the town at the time, and we'll have to accept it for what it is at this point in time, even though it's been quite a long time since it was, enacted.
Yep.
So let's make sure we're all very familiar with those two documents.
Okay. Number 6 is the meeting schedule. I did talk to Michelle about meeting here, and because I thought initially we may, and I still think this, that we may need to meet twice a month. It's a lot to look at. And so I was told that on Tuesday nights, we can meet the 3rd Tuesday and the 4th Tuesday. The next Tuesday, the next 3rd Tuesday is December 21st. meet then?
That's 3 weeks out. We couldn't meet the 14th?
The 14th is the planning board meeting here. We could meet maybe Wednesday, because I was told that Wednesday was open.
Yeah. Charles, do you have a preference for meeting nights?
It doesn't matter really. 6 o'clock should be fine. It should be open.
Yeah.
Okay, if you wanna do that 21st. I'm good with that.
And then we'll try to meet every other week. Or if not, you know, we may have to go to, in other words, we may have to have a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
That's
We do that.
fine with me.
Okay.
Groves, can you get with the town clerk and figure out what we need to do for legal notices and if
Yes.
we're required?
Yes, I will.
So.
We can adjourn and then exchange contact info, which we pretty much have already, so.
Let's, I just wanna go back to the calendar.
Yep.
So what did you say, we have the 3rd,
Second and fourth.
2nd and 4th?
The 3rd and the 4th. Oh, wait, yeah, that's what I have written down. Oh, but we could go the 3rd and the,
No, it's just, well,
we could go Wednesday, the second week, right?
Yeah.
planning board is the second Tuesday.
Why don't we do a Wednesday night, the 5th of January also?
Yep.
Then we can, at the 21st, we can schedule our
Actually,
meeting after the 5th, the 5th.
So the next meeting will be Tuesday, December 21st, at 6 PM here. And January 5th is Wednesday, the following meeting?
Wednesday, January 5th.
Okay, at 6 o'clock here.
Well,
I'm gonna double check that.
you might wanna check on those Wednesdays, because I think budget committee starts
I
after.
talked to Michelle about that, yeah. So,
All the more reason to set our calendar.
yes. Is there a motion on the floor to